everybody, welcome back. This is Jennifer J, and we are starting part 20 tonight of moving forward when God says go. And you will notice today we are into March, and you know what that means. That means I'm actually moving. I am leaving Kansas and headed to Arizona. So very exciting stuff going on now. The day before we had a going away party / birthday party for Destiny / help me pack my car party at my house. And so my Kansas kids were there and my grandkids, and that was fun and sad, you know, bittersweet, but I was excited about what was coming. So my kids helped me get the totes in the trunk of the car and all that business, and I was, you know, packed and loaded down and ready to go. All I had to do was get up in the morning and get ready and hit the road. And I wanted to get to Dallas before dark. That was my goal. So I knew I needed to leave, you know, around 5 or 6 in the morning. And the reason, I know Dallas is not the most direct route from Kansas to Arizona, but I had asked God if it was all right if I went there. I didn't feel necessarily called to go there, but he certainly said it was okay for me to go there. So I felt like as long as I got to church by March the 6th, first service, that I was fine, whatever I did. But he definitely told me to leave March 1st. So that was kind of this gray area for me. I'm like, well, I know for sure you're telling me to leave on March the 1st, but you're saying I don't need to get there till March the 6th. So there's just this time that I wasn't really sure what he necessarily wanted me to do with. And so I left on the 1st and I headed to Dallas. Now, as you guys know, excuse me, I'm gonna get a drink. Very dry in Arizona. But as I was wanting to go to the Potter's house, it's because I had been listening to T.D. Jakes. His sermons had been so impactful to my walk and what was happening, and you know what was changing inside me, and what God was telling me to do. And I know I did listen to some other sermons as well, but a lot of them were T.D. Jakes. And so I really was excited to go and see him live and in person. I was really, really hoping that I could meet him and talk to him. But that was not to be. However, my sister lives in Dallas, and so she said I could come and stay at her house March 1st, which was the day I was leaving to go down there. And then March 2nd was Wednesday, and that's when we would go. She was going to go with me to the Potter's house, and it would be their Bible study. But I thought the doors opened at 6 o'clock. I could swear I heard T.D. Jakes announce the doors open an hour before. However, we got there and they said, no, they don't open till 6:30. You'll have to go wait in your car. So we did, and that was fine. But we got in, and I'm walking in, and you guys, I'm not kidding. I could have just skipped up to the front to the stage. I just was so stinking excited to be there. And if you go, gosh, I think I posted pictures on Facebook. I'm not sure. I'll have to figure out a way to get pictures on here, but there was an usher. There was a lady there that was ushering. First of all, they had masks on. So some people had masks on and some people didn't have masks on. And this was March of 22. So, you know, we would have worn them if we thought we had to, but the person at the front door, the security person, told us we didn't have to. So we didn't have them on. So then the usher lady is telling us, you have to have a mask on. And we're like, he just told us we didn't have to have a mask on, and he's not wearing one. And she's like, well, they didn't tell us. So then she's like trying to figure that out. My sister is saying, where do you want to sit? Because I'm thinking the place is going to just be crowded, right? It's going to be packed because everybody wants to see T.D. Jakes as much as I do, right? And I'm sure they do, Bishop Jakes. However, there was not a lot of people there yet. So there was a couple of gentlemen sitting up in the front, and otherwise it was pretty sparse. There was 1 or 2 people around, but it's a big auditorium, and there were maybe 10 people in the whole place. So I go walking towards the front, and the usher asks, or Jeannie, my sister asks, where do I want to sit? And I said, well, I want to sit on the stage. And I'm just, hightailing it towards the front. And of course I was kidding, but the usher lady heard me, and I shouldn't call her the usher lady. I learned her name, and now I don't know it right off the top of my head. I apologize. But she was just following me going, no, 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 no. Like, you can't go sit on the stage. And I was just laughing, and I said, I'm not going to sit on the stage. I'm going to get a picture on the stage. There was nothing up there I could hurt, you guys. There was no sound equipment. There was no instruments or anything up there that I could have hurt at all. However, she did not want me up there. But I went up the stairs anyway and turned around, and she took my picture. And then there was a table, just a round table, like bar height, and there was a bar stool sitting there. And I sat there and I got a picture. And somebody said, well, I think he's going to sit there tonight. Like, he's not going to be on the stage. He's going to be in that chair. And I said, he is not going to sit in that chair. It about fell over when I sat in it, and he's a lot bigger than I am. And they didn't say anything. Anyway, I was just like, yeah, he's not that chair is not safe. I was like trying to get them to get a better chair. That chair was not stable. But they knew what I didn't know, is that TD Jakes wasn't even there. So I didn't get to see him or meet him. However, God was there, and that's really all that mattered. So we go sit down, and Jeannie's like, well, you want to sit in the front? Let's sit in the front. And I was like, we can't sit in the very, very front row. Like, we'll sit in the second row. You know how you're sitting in a pew and you have the pew ahead of you. But if you sit in the very front row, there's no pew ahead of you. It's just, it's just where the table and chair is, where he's going to sit. And she's like, well, why can't we sit there? And I don't know. We just can't sit there. So she goes and asks someone, and they tell us we can't sit there because security sits there. So, okay, so we sit in the second row. So we sit next to these two gentlemen that were already there. And it's the two gentlemen, and then there's like a little space because, COVID. And then there's my sister, and then there's me. And I don't remember who started the conversation or how it went, but somehow they found out we're from Kansas City. And so they said something about Kansas City, and I got up and I moved around my sister, and I sat right beside them, and I was like, well, let me tell you my story. They probably thought I was ridiculous. But they introduced themselves. It was an elder of the church, Elder James Willis, and forgive me because I don't have his name written down now. All of a sudden it's escaping me, but he had a friend sitting there with him. And so we're talking, and I'm telling him my whole story. And at some point, somebody asks me something about the Cash App. And I don't know really anything about the Cash App. I have it because my daughter, Destiny, has it, and she would rather use that than Venmo or PayPal or anything. And so I got it, mostly so I could send her money. But it has come in handy a time or two. But anyway, I didn't know what he was doing or why he was asking, and so I looked it up on my phone and I handed it to him. And much to my surprise, at the end of our conversation, he had Cash Apped me $400. And that just blew me away, you guys. I think I told you at the beginning, somewhere in this story, that I really didn't have finances. God had made me totally 100% reliant on him. There was nothing to draw from. And I don't know what part of that I shared with him, but God bless him, because it got me the rest of the way to Arizona, which I really, honestly did not know how I was going to do. But I was just being faithful, and I was just saying, I'm going to Dallas, and we'll see what happens from here. And so that was amazing. But then, as I'm telling him my story, and then church starts, and there's wonderful music, really wonderful music, worship music, and then a pastor that is not T.D. Jakes comes out, and it is Pastor Shavard Dobbins. And he was preaching on Use Your Voice. That was the name of the sermon, Use Your Voice. If you look it up, The Potter's House, Pastor Shavard Dobbins, Use Your Voice. And everything he said, now first of all, Elder Willis had shared with me that he too started a YouTube page recently, and sometimes you'll see me link him in my stories, so you might want to look him up. He's got Christian rap videos, Christian music that he's directing and producing. So he knew what my struggle was about starting the channel and everything. Like, he got it because he didn't know how to do it either, and he was just learning things as well. And so after he's Pastor Dobbins is preaching, everything he's preaching about Use Your Voice is about using your platform like YouTube and telling your story. And like everything he said, we would just look at each other because it was like everything I had just said to him. And now he's saying to me, like almost in confirmation, that this is what I'm supposed to do. It was phenomenal. I mean, only God, right? And he and I are just looking at each other and like I can't believe he's saying what he's saying right now. And Elder Willis, if you are watching, I hope that you will put a comment down below and tell us what you were thinking during that time. But at the end, I really wanted to talk to the pastor. I have this burning desire to tell my story. And I really wanted to talk to him for a few minutes. Now, he had a lot of people around him. And I had told Jeannie, so she, made herself at home and she was going to wait for me. But there was a lot of people around. His wife was there and some other church members and stuff. And there was still some prayer going on and different things. And so I just prayed to God that he would come over. Just one more confirmation for me, Lord, if this is really what you're calling me to do. And I know you guys don't laugh at me because I kept doubting. But I said, if this is really, really you, like, send him over here to pray with me. And I kid you not, at that moment, he stopped. Whoever he was talking to, he had like 5 people around him. And he walked right over to me. And he's standing in front of me, right? And I'm standing up and I have my hands on the pew in front of me. And he puts his hand on my hand and he begins to pray for me. And then he puts his other hand on my head and prays an anointing over me. And you guys, I'm telling you what, I was just so in awe of God at that moment. And I told him, I couldn't really share a lot of my story with him at that point, but I did tell him, I just like 5 seconds ago prayed that you would come over and pray with me. And then he said, during his prayer over me, he said, that book that God's told you to write, he's telling me to tell you to write it. And I had not told anyone. I take it back. I think I did tell Raquel. I had told Raquel that I felt like there was a book out of this story that was to come. Not yet, but that there was a book. And she's the only one I had told that to. And so for him to say that just kind of also blew me away. Like, okay, I guess God's speaking to me here. So that was all really amazing. And then when I was telling Elder Willis about the YouTube channel and feeling like Moses and asking for an Aaron to help me, and he said he wanted to remind me of something. He said, when Moses went up the mountain for 40 days, what did Aaron do? He took all the jewelry and all the gold and melted it and made a golden calf, made an idol for them to worship. And he said, God told me to learn and didn't give me an Aaron because it would distract from what I'm saying. And I thought that was kind of profound. And then he said that God had told him, and he didn't tell me this till the very end before we left, but he told me at the beginning I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. He told me at the beginning that there was something God had told him, but he wasn't going to tell me till the end. So at the end, he said what God had told him to tell me was that Pilgrim Rest might be my church, but that the Potter's House would always have a place in my life. And that when he calls me to come back to the Potter's House, I am to go. So I will keep that in mind. And if TD Jakes invites me to come, I will go. I'll go. I'll go if God tells me to, but you know, I really want to meet TD Jakes. So I did get to share just a snippet of my story with Pastor Dobbins, and he said he's sure that God is speaking and to obey. And so then I just wrote in my notes, you know, TD Jakes wasn't there, but God was. And it was way cool, you guys. So I will stop with that. When we come back for part 21, it will be about my trip then onto Albuquerque and getting then here to Arizona. So I am so glad you guys have stayed tuned. We're getting closer to the actual date, current date, and then we will be hearing some other stories. So I cannot wait to share with you guys. And I thank you for joining me today. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. And if you want to watch any of these other sermons, I'll try to get them linked in the description on the YouTube channel. If I can get them on the actual end page, I'll do that too, but I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. I'll do my best. But it was Pastor Bernard Dobbins, and it was Use Your Voice. So hope you can watch it and use your voice this week. Bye-bye.